going? Okay. Good morning, everyone. We're on the record. I'm going to call this meeting to order for the Polk County Board of Commissioners for Tuesday, December 2nd, 2025. All commissioners are present. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, first item up on our agenda this morning is for comments for items not on the agenda. This is your public speaking opportunity. Okay, no one's rushing forward. Next up is approval of the agenda.
So moved. Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, passed unanimously. Approval of minutes of November 25th.
So moved. Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, passed unanimously. Planning Commission interview, Susan Graham.
Morning.
First, I want to apologize. I had a little too much fun over Thanksgiving with family visiting. So my voice is not as best.
No worries, we got you.
It's good to meet you all.
Yeah. So again, tell us your name for the record
Sure. My name's Susan Graham,
and your address, please.
and I live at 6270 Corvallis Road in Independence.
So why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and why you're seeking this position?
Well, I moved to Independence in 2014. I've worked until I retired in 2022. I worked for Ernst & Young as a tax attorney in California and also in Oregon. I'm very interested in doing a lot of work in the community now that I'm no longer working for someone else. I'm just working for myself. I have a rental business with my husband, and then I have other time available to do things like serving on the school board and a couple of nonprofit boards, and just otherwise being involved in the community.
Okay. So we have a list of questions and you've received those?
Yeah, were we going down the list or?
Mhm.
Oh, great.
Right.
And
And
if I doubt my notes.
no, not at all. I'll start with question number one, then Commissioner Mordhorst will go with number two, Commissioner Gordon will go with number three, and then we'll just rotate.
Great. I just have little notes, but
Yeah, no worries. Okay, you ready?
yeah.
Okay. What do you consider the most important land use issues facing Polk County government over the next 4 years?
I think in almost any area, land use, the important aspect is how to balance conserving what you've got, which varies. But for us, we've got quite a lot of, agriculture mostly and some forestry, but balancing that with how the community's growing. And Polk County is not the fastest growing county in the state, but it is growing quite a lot. And we do have to consider the impact of that growth on what we're doing within the county.
Okay, thank you.
So describe why you want to be on the County Planning Commission and what you hope to accomplish as a member.
So because I have experience with working on different kinds of boards, the way I've kind of evaluated what my role would be on Planning Commission has been just thinking about what the restrictions are, right? This is a county governmental kind of a committee. So the most important thing is understanding how the law affects what we're doing. Being on a commission like this is not, you don't come in guns blazing and say, I want to change these 5 things, which I have seen in other committees, and that usually it takes a little while for people to figure out like, oh, that's not how it works. So at least I have that background that I can look at what needs to be accomplished and, realize what my role is. So, but Planning Commission in particular, or just let's start with the county. Because of where I live in the urban growth boundary of Independence. I can't serve on most committees for City of Independence. And so over time, I've followed those committees and followed what they're doing and was very interested, but felt like I just couldn't be involved. And I literally just woke up one day and said, oh my gosh, Polk County has committees too. I didn't even realize, because it's not something that, you read about in the paper every day, the work that everyone's grinding through. So then I just realized that's one of the ways I can make a contribution on a level for this community, is by being involved with county government. And planning commission seemed a good way. A lot of the work that's done, you have to understand how the law works, be able to read documents, listen to people. I have a lot of experience like that from the other work I've done. So it seemed like it might be a good fit.
Okay. How would you define livability and quality of life? Very philosophical question.
Yeah, really. We could talk about that a lot, but I think the short version is probably better for this. To me, livability in this context is really having the services and, basic things available for you to manage your life, right? People need to be able to be secure in where they're living, and they need to understand how the rules work so that they can proceed without a lot of complication. I think so. When I think about it, I think about what's necessary and is functional for them to manage their lives. That's kind of livability. And so quality of life is the thing that livability kind of supports. So that's more personal in nature. Quality of life is like you're secure in all these things that we have going on, and now I can access these other things that make me personally happy. Like, people have different quality of life needs. So because we're serving a county of people with different quality of life needs, I think just awareness that not everyone's the same is what's important to us in this role. For me, quality of life is being able to do stuff like this, among other things.
Thank you.
Okay, what is your philosophy regarding private property rights and government regulations?
Well, obviously I'm a lawyer, so the law is always important to me. And I'm teaching Introduction to Business Law at WU this semester. It's my slow time of year, so I could teach one class. And hilariously, we talked about the eminent domain issue that they had in Independence. And so I spent a lot of time talking with students about how, there's like this intersection between what we have to do sometimes and what the community wants and needs. And so I have thought about that actually quite a lot, but I think at the end of the day, you always have to go back to, what does the law say? Are we following the law? As long as we're following the law and giving people their opportunity to be involved in the process, I think we've done our job.
Do you feel that there is adequate protection for farm and forest lands under existing land use laws?
There's a lot of protections because I'm not an expert on farming. All I know is what I read in the papers, and I know that there's people that probably think there's too many, and there's probably people that think there's too few. So all we can do is understand what are the kind of the guidelines and goals that we have to base decisions on, and do our best to follow them, with input from the community.
Great. Do you feel that Polk County should be more restrictive than state laws and rules and its land use regulations? And if so, in what areas?
We have the right to, and I think that's a case-by-case thing. I don't know. I know a little bit more about restrictions that I've seen in the different towns. What tends to get the press are like retail restrictions or things like that. I did notice, though, that there's quite a lot of excitement about the gas station sign, wherever that's supposed to be on 99, right? So trying to get back to what we're talking about, but to me, there's already a lot of rules. I think we just need to figure out when they don't work, right? Because life does change. I'm not aware of any rules that are inappropriate at this time based on what we currently need as a community, but it's definitely something that you can go back and look at and make sure. More restrictive is allowed. I'm not aware of anything right now that I think needs to be restricted more. I think we're operating pretty well.
Thank you.
Okay, based on your understanding of the statewide land use planning program, what would you change to make it better? And what would you change to make Polk County's land use laws better?
So before this list came out, actually, just so I could understand what the committee did, does as a rule and how this kind of all works together, I had a meeting with Austin just to learn more about it. And so I feel like the rules have been developed over time to be very comprehensive and think about all of the things that we need. And as I kind of mentioned in the last question, goals don't typically change as much as circumstances, right? So circumstances might require you to make adjustments, but I don't think, I'm not on the level where I would change state law personally. If I noticed that there was an issue that was causing problems in our community, that's something that would kind of go up the chain of command like, hey, is anyone already working on this? What kinds of things or projects are going on that are looking at this issue? Have we already gone back to the community and asked them what they think needs to be done? I mean, it's not my role to change the law. It's kind of more my role to connect the community with the process and figure out like if there's something that we need to look at and consider changing.
Do you feel Polk County is doing a good job or bad job in carrying out the state's land use laws, administrative rules? And can you elaborate a little bit for us, please?
Again, based on my limited amount of vision, because nobody outside the committee could ever be an expert on it. You really have to kind of work with it a while and figure out how it works, even with a lot of reading. That's just the way it goes. I'm not aware of anything that's not working. I was actually very impressed when I had the meeting with Austin and met a few people on the staff very briefly. All the times that I've ever had interactions with Polk County on different things, like when I had to build a fence, because I'm in Polk County, I built a fence in my front yard and had to call multiple times in to get information about the setback and ODOT and all of those things. My impression has been good. I think in general, for most human beings that have to figure out how those things work, it's complicated here because we have some things that are state and some things that are city and some things that are county. So a lot of the things that I think would be useful or make us do or help us to do a better job are more communication things, helping people understand how the pieces work together and what rules apply to them, making it easier for them to find answers. Calling someone on the phone is really good, but if you're a crazy person like me, I also want to look at the code and make sure that I understood exactly what they meant, because I'm not taking that fence down 5 years later.
All right, last scripted question. Can you describe your experience collaboratively working toward a solution to a complex problem with a diverse group? And what was your role?
This is the easiest question on here because I've had to do that many, many times over the course of my career. While I was at Ernst & Young, of course, in roles that went all the way from being the least experienced person to the person leading the project. And then in my other roles, when I worked on the school bond a year and a half ago and, just different projects where you're working with many different points of view and talking to people that agree with you, talking to people that don't agree with you. I think listening is really important, understanding the rules and helping people to understand what their jobs are, listening to people. I mean, it seems, it's kind of second nature for me. I'm not really concerned about being in a dynamic group because that's really what I'm used to.
Thank you.
So I have one unscripted question.
Okay,
Just to be consistent with,
sure.
I asked the first candidate, I'm going to ask every candidate. First of all, with my own scenario of just this year traveling around a bit to different states, Idaho, Nevada, Arizona, and through California. Again, I've been there many, many times. And I personally I have lots of farm background and forestry background and am very concerned about the growth, what seems almost unchecked growth going on in several of those states. They're covering farmlands,
Right.
especially in Idaho, with industrial facilities, lots of new suburban homes, some of them not even sold, they're just spec building them on what here would be considered absolute taboo. But one of my biggest challenges when I see all that growth, and I'm very familiar with what government is generally not capable of doing, and that is infrastructure. And you've got it right in your own backyard, as a matter of fact.
Exactly.
You've touched on it.
Down the street from me.
Yeah, I know where you are. And so I'm always concerned about water, waste disposal, sanitation and roads and bridges. But what's your experience and what's your feeling about, again, I think I heard you correctly, you moved here from California.
Mhm.
So it's off the hook down there in the growth.
Yeah.
So what's your feeling about that? Again, you've moved to a state that has Senate Bill 100 for a reason. I'm one who would vehemently advocate for hanging on to that. Could it be updated? Maybe, but it is, as you said, very comprehensive. What's your feelings about that stuff?
Well, just to kind of set the
Bless you.
stage, even though I moved here from California, I'm 63 years old. I've lived a life. My first husband was Navy, so I've actually lived all over the country in all different kinds of, regions and urban, rural, suburban, everything in between. So I've seen the way growth has worked, right? To think about it, I was in California, growing up in the 70s when it was like growing like crazy. Then I moved I was living on the East Coast where it's more restricted, mostly because everything's already been built. So you see how people are just trying to make things work with a little tiny bit of growth. And then here, where it looks like we've got a lot of land, but I agree with you that the farm and the forestry land, like I read the goals too. It's like preserve, protect, conserve. It's all that kind of stuff are the main goals. There's a little bit of enhance or improve, but very little. Most of them are preserve, protect. So sometimes you have to grow. But just philosophically, like the thing that makes us who we are these open spaces and the farm land and the forestry land. I mean, we wouldn't be Oregon, we would turn into something else otherwise. I think Idaho has had that crazy growth because they're, just very opposed to regulation in general. And so they allow that growth to happen very easily. I think Oregon's kind of in the middle. Like we want to protect where we're at. That's why I think these rules are important, right? Because they were developed for a reason. They were developed not only to put a process in place that's thoughtful so people aren't just willy-nilly going around and doing crazy things, but they're put there too to maintain the integrity of what we are as a state and a culture and a larger community. So, but that said, you definitely have to look at what's going on. And to me, the most recent current event that I had questions about, and I actually spoke with Austin about it and did some research online, was that, what's that, Land Development Corp? Hold on, I wrote down the name of the committee because it actually showed up in here. Land Conservation and Development Commission. That's a statewide commission that was looking into like farm stands and things like that. And so I did a little bit of a deep dive on that before this, opportunity even came up. And it's hard, right? Stuff like that is hard. You have to balance this need to maintain this historical and also necessary farmlands, but you also need people to have the economic viability to maintain those things. And so it's a balancing act, right? I think if you approach problems like that thoughtfully, you will usually get to the right place and make sure that you're always listening to what's in the law, but what do people care about? That particular issue, it's kind of funny. I mean, they backed off eventually. It seems like we're actually kind of in the right place. And so democracy was working because people said, hey, wait, is this right? And eventually they're like, well, okay, yeah, it's actually okay. But it's not wrong to question it. That's that gives you the opportunity to figure out if you're actually doing the right thing or if you do need to change your approach. I don't know if that really answered your question.
It does. It gives us a lot of insight into, your process, how you think, and you did a great job starting off with just like follow the law. That matters a great deal to me.
My arm.
Yes.
I'm a rule person for sure. Like in any sort of volunteer organization, I'm the one that's helping to rewrite the bylaws and work on governance. And when I met you in the hallway earlier, I was chatting with David because we worked on a project like that recently.
Any other questions?
None from me. Thanks so
Good.
much.
Okay. Susan, thank you so much.
It's great to meet you.
Appreciate you coming in. We'll be back. We'll be in touch. All right. Do we have any non-listed items?
No, sir. No, sir.
That's good. No bad news, no ending on a sour note today. Or adjourned.